In today's episode, let's talk about AI content detection. A lot of people are very focused on this, trying to say, can we detect the use of AI in content that's been created? Should social networks be detecting the use of AI in synthetic content? Here's what I'll say on this front from a technology perspective, not from a legal or ethical perspective, because those are not my areas of expertise. I am a technologist. From a technology perspective, AI content detection is a losing battle. Okay, why? It's because of computational asymmetry, right? People and companies are racing to detect AI content, from schools trying to figure out, if a term paper has been written with ChatGPT, to Instagram seeing if an image was machine made. Computational asymmetry is going to be the gating factor that prevents AI content detection from working really well. What does that mean? Let's talk about just some basic numbers. As of last year, according to Domo publishes the Data Never Sleeps study that comes out every year of 1 minute on the internet. The internet in 60 seconds, what happens on the internet. And in last year's chart, it was Instagram receives an uploads of somewhere on the order of 1,200 photos and videos uploaded per second. Now, if you are saying we need to detect the use of AI, the code and tooling needed to evaluate a piece of content for AI hallmarks, like there's measurements, there's known proven measurements like perplexity and burstiness. Perplexity measures the diversity and variety of words. Burstiness measures the differences in length of blocks of text. There are artifacts and images that are very clearly make it AI. And not just like, hey, he's got 9 fingers in one hand, but there's other artifacts. But the code required to do that has to be able to process vast quantities of data at lightning speeds, right? If you had a piece of software that you thought was really fast and it processed 5 images a second, and you put that in Instagram's pipeline, it would be immediately backlogged by 1,195 photos in the first second of its operation. And by the end of the day, you've got millions and millions and millions of things that are backlogged that you just will never get to. So the code that you run to detect AI software has to be lightning fast. It also has to be cheap to run, partly because it has to be lightning fast. Computation has to be super cheap to run, because the more overhead your code consumes analyzing images or videos or music, the slower the rest of your services run, because you're burning up CPUs and GPUs in your data center trying to keep up with the endless deluge of imagery. We all know the adage, right? Fast, cheap, good, choose two. We know the code to detect AI generated content, by definition, has to be fast. It has to be cheap because it has to scale so big, which means it's not going to be very good. In fact, most of the code that detects AI generated content tends to be dumb as a bag of hammers because of those speed and cost constraints. It's an asymmetry problem. I, as a user of any AI creation tool, I can wait the 5 seconds or 15 seconds or 50 seconds for a really good model to build a really good image. And because there's millions and millions and millions of these users, they can create images with AI faster than software can detect it, right? If we're all uploading millions of AI generated images a day. And that's with today's stuff. This does not take into account the evolution of these models. Stable Diffusion 3 is coming out very, very soon. I believe they're releasing the weights sometime in June 2024. That model, when you look at the outputs, is substantially better and substantially more realistic than its predecessors, right? It's got the right number of fingers on the hand. But more than anything, when you look at the images it creates, they look pretty good. There's still things that are wrong, but there's fewer and fewer of them with every generation of these. Think about the text generation models. The new versions of ChatGPT and Google Gemini and Anthropic Claude are far better than their predecessors were even 6 months ago, much less a year ago. A year ago, it's June as I record this, June 24. June 2023, ChatGPT's answers were not great, right? GPT-4 had just come out, and most people are using 3.5 because it was the free version. It sucked. I mean, it still sucks. It does an okay job of like classification, summarization, but it's not a great writer. Today, a year later, the new 4 Omni model that everyone can use, free and paid, much, much better. So this poses three big challenges when it comes to AI content detection. Number one, human-made stuff is gonna get flagged more, especially these models improve. Your human content's gonna get flagged more and more because these primitive detection algorithms will have a harder time catching up. The models and people, the gap between what we can create and models can create is getting smaller and smaller. And way over here on the other end of the spectrum are the detection algorithms that, because of cost and speed constraints, can't catch up nearly as fast. And so as this gap closes, these relatively dumb tools will be retrained to be slightly less dumb, and will make more and more mistakes saying, hey, that's AI generated. Like, no, it's not. That's actually a picture of an aurora that I took in Boston in 2024. And machines, so this is going to be a problem. AI stuff is going to get flagged less, right? This is especially true of open weights models, where the model maker can offer watermarking technology, but users can just remove it for images and things like that. But again, that gap is getting so smaller and smaller, which means that to avoid false positives and blaming a human and saying, oh, that's AI generated one, it's not. By definition, the tool will then start to miss more AI generated things too. And the compliance for AI labeling is going to be impossible for all but the biggest content networks, because the compute costs for primitive content detection are going to escalate way beyond affordability. This month, there's a big discussion about the art app Kara. I don't know how to pronounce it. The creator went from 100,000 users to 500,000 users in the span of a couple of weeks because the app really caught on. One of their big things is no AI anything. Largely because of architecture problems and a bunch of other things that went wrong. The creator, who's a person, got $100,000 server bill. Now imagine your pet project suddenly cost you $100,000. And this is with, again, relatively primitive detection of AI generated content. It's going to get harder and harder for anyone except people who own massive server farms to even detect AI content. So what does this mean for you? Well, two things. One, if you, or your company, you personally, if you accept user-generated content in any form, whether it's a contact form on your website, uploads, comments on your blog posts, you can expect to be swamped by AI-generated content if you aren't already. Even on platforms where there's no benefit to automation and bots and stuff whatsoever, people show up with AI bots anyway. Go on to Archive of Our Own, which is a fan fiction site. There's no commercial benefit there at all for any reason. There's no reason to be leaving spam blog comments because you can't create links to sites. There's no SEO benefit. People run bots there anyway. Anyone who accepts content from the outside world is going to be getting an awful lot of AI of it. Two, you need to decide your personal, professional, organizational positions on generating and disclosing the use of AI, right? There isn't a right answer. Some organizations, it makes sense. Some organizations, it doesn't. And what you disclose above and beyond what's legally required, that's up to you. And there is no right answer as to whether or not you should be using AI to generate stuff and whether you should be disclosing it above and beyond what is legally required. So, something to think about as you embark on your use of AI. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And if you want to know when new videos are available, hit the bell button to be notified as soon as new content is live.